chapter 1, part 2. Okay, okay, so I have shared my slide. Okay, so for chapter 1, part 2, we are going to cover about administrative office manager. So what is actually administrative office manager? So this one is the person who heads up the company-wide information management function, may have one of the several titles such as administrative office manager, for example. It can be called office manager, manager administrative services, information manager, and etc. And the administrative office manager is the person who are responsible for planning, organizing, controlling the information processing activities, and for leading people in attaining the organization objective is called as administrative office manager or office manager. Okay, so that is the definition as well as the responsibility of the administrative office manager. So the next one. Cannot change my slide. Okay, so these are the functions of management. It's different compared to the functions of previously that we have learned in chapter 1 part 1. Okay, so you need to know there are 4 functions of management. The first one is planning. The second one is organizing. The third one is leading. So under the leading, we include 2 things that is staffing and directing, and lastly is controlling. So you also can memorize this one as POLC, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. The next one. Let's go one by one. So these are the responsibility of administrative office manager, especially in the functions of management. You only have 4. So let's go. The first one is planning. When we talk about the word planning, yes, of course, it will involve the planning part. So planning is the management function of choosing or generating organizational objective. And then you need to determine the course of action needed to achieve those objectives. Okay, for example, you are planning, maybe you are planning, for example, you are going to get an A for that subject. So what are the course of action for that subject in order for you to get an A for that subject? Yes, you must sorry. You must don't miss the class, and then you need to score all the quizzes and submit all the assessment, and as well you need to score your final. Okay, the second part is sorry, planning is analyzing relevant information from both the past and the present and assessing probable development of the future. So a course of plan, which is the plan may be determined, will enable the firm to meet its goal. Okay, so in other words, when you put yourself in this kind of situation, you have planning the same thing in the past and then you will get the result. Okay, from what happening in the past, you are going to learn, and you're not going to make the same mistake when you plan the new one. Okay, so this is what we call the planning part. The second one, okay, the responsibility of administrative office manager for POLC. So in organizing, it's bringing together economic resources. So for example, of economic resources is the work itself, the workplace, the information, and the workers. This one is for controllable, which is manageable unit. The organization want to accomplish a specific objective. Okay, the second one is the leading part. Okay, so leading is motivating and directing the workers so that the objective of the organization will be successful achieved. And last one is the controlling. So controlling is ensuring that operating result conform as closely as possible to the plans made for the organization. So we have learned about what is administrative office manager as well as its the responsibility of AOM, and then we know the 4 functions of management that include planning, organizing, leading and controlling. So the next part that you need to know the job responsibilities, or in other words, what are the activities in the planning. The first one, you need to know under the planning, you are going to develop goals and objectives for each of the office functions and services that include layout as well as the environment. Okay, and then you need to keep abreast of a new development in the field and determine what changes should be made in the existing function and services to maintain a state-of-art position. Okay, next one, you need to assess the need to design and implement totally new function and services. Okay, this is still under the planning. And then you need to develop policies. You need to assess the need for designing and implementing totally new functions and services. Okay, the next one, you need to develop policies, of course, that will help ensure to attain of goals and objectives. The next one, you need to determine the most effective means of implementing desired changes. Okay, under the planning, you also have need to develop the unit's budget, and under the planning, you need to determine the personal requirement, you need to determine the space and equipment needs for your organization, and also lastly is to design the new operation system. Okay, so these are the job responsibility or activities of office manager under the planning. So let's proceed to the second part, is under organization, under organizing. So what are the activities that office manager can do under organizing? The first one is you need to determine the most effective means of organizing resources to achieve goals and objectives. And you need to determine the most effective way for employees to perform the specific task. Okay, and then you need to design efficient work methods and procedure. This one is very important. Okay, and then assuring the maximum utilization of the organization's office equipment. Next one, you need to develop effective methods and techniques when implementing changes. So when you make any changes, it's quite hard for you to do or you to apply the changes. Okay, that's why you need to develop an effective methods and technique. Okay, the next part is you need to develop techniques for maximizing organizational and individual productivity. And lastly, you need to develop effective procedures for evaluating equipment being considered for acquisition. Okay. The third part is the leading. So you need to remember under the leading, actually you have a staffing and also directing. So the job responsibility or the activities under the leading is to assure the use of efficient employee selection procedure in including placement and orientation. So this is an important part when you select and train the employee. Okay, you're going to learn this one in chapter 6. Okay, the next one is you need to provide sufficient growth opportunities and experiences for employee. Okay, why do you need to have this? So that your employees can grow. Okay, next, providing appropriate training experiences. Yes, that's why we are giving the training for our new employee as well as for our current employees. And then you need to assure effective appraisal of employee performance, and you're going to learn this one in chapter 8. Assuring the realistic description of employee job, using effective techniques to supervise employee, using effective techniques to motivate employees, and then you need to design effective lines of communication within the unit. So you are going to learn about this one, about the communication in chapter 3, especially the top-down communication and the down-to-top communication. Okay, and you need to assure employee compliance with organizational policies and procedure. Okay, and you need to ensure the employee's performance meets the expectation. And lastly, you need to help employees solve work-related problem and using a fair, objective approach for adjusting employees' salaries. One is the controlling. So under the controlling, the activities of office manager are, the first one is you need to develop efficient procedures for controlling the quantity and quality of work process in areas for which the administrative office manager is responsible. Then you need to develop efficient procedure for scheduling work, develop efficient procedure for use in readily determining the status of unfinished work, and then you also need to maintain the unit's budget. So under the planning, you already plan the unit's budget, but under controlling, you are the one or the activities of office manager is to maintain the unit's budget. Okay, the next part is you need to ensure the methods and procedures are cost effective. Okay, and motivating employees to be cost conscious. Next part, develop effective assessment procedure for use in determining why actual results fail to conform with anticipated result. Okay, develop effective procedures for dealing with employees who fail to comply with the organization rules and policy. And lastly, you need to develop effective strategies for taking corrective action when and where necessary. Okay, so there are the four functions of what we call the management, and also you need to know what are the job responsibility as well as the activities under these four functions of management. Okay, next part we are going to learn what are the challenges faced by the administrative office manager. Okay, so these are the challenges that they will face as administrative office manager. Okay, the change agent, culturally diverse workforce, the technology, the new office system, government regulation, productivity, and globalization. So there are 7 challenges that we are going to learn, and these challenges the administrative office manager must face in order for them to administrative the organization. Okay, the first one, okay, so you need to have the ability to cope with the change, okay, and to help others accept change will continue to create a challenge for administrative office manager. Okay, so the second part is the technology used in the office. Results are more sophisticated version of existing equipment. And the third one is the government regulation itself. You need to prepare reports and save in the data bank. Okay, and then the organizational productivity. So for this one, you need to be responsible for continually develop efficient system to maximize the productivity. Okay, the next part, you need to increase the number of administrative office manager. Okay, next one is the workforce become more culturally diverse, whereby you have the different custom, the different belief, and also the different habits and etc. And last one is the globalization. Okay, for the globalization, you have the tendency for many organizations to have operations located in many countries throughout the world. Okay, so these are what we call the very simple what we call definition for the challenges that the administrative office manager will face. Okay, so now we are going to proceed to the next part, which are what are the qualifications for administrative office manager. So actually, administrative office manager, you need to possess a thorough understanding of variety business fundamentals in order to help individual to achieve individual or organizational goals. For example, the economics or the management and etc. Okay, and then you need to have a specialized knowledge of the following areas is also important. For example, records management, data processing, the office layout and equipment use, and also the productivity improvement. And then As administrative office manager, you need to have a commitment to ethical behavior, and you need also to have the ability to delegate the responsibility. Okay, so the next one, the qualification required for administrative office manager is you need to be the leadership to inspire and motivate employees to do their best. You need to have interpersonal behavior and human relation skill. You need to have a commitment to ethical behavior. You must have the ability to delegate. And as administrative office manager, one of the qualification is you are effective. You need to have effective decision making skill. Okay, if you make a wrong decision making, it will affect not just you but the whole organization. And you need to have effective communication skill, especially when the communication skill from top to the down and down to the top. So we are going to learn more in chapter 3 after we have finished chapter 2. Okay, and then you need to have the ability to accept the viewpoint of others. This is very important as a leader. As administrative office manager, you need to take note or to accept the opinion or the suggestion of your employees. Okay, and then you need the ability to exercise good judgment, avoid bias. Okay, and lastly, you need to have the initiative and desire to continue to learn and develop professionally. Okay, so when we talk about professional and education background, you need to know for the professionalism of AOM, okay, an excellent way for AOM to increase their professionalism is to participate in the professional organizations and associations and to earn a certificate. For example, is CAM, Certified Administrative Manager. Okay, and for educational background, to be a successful of administrative office managers, certain minimal educational requirements are needed, coupled with appropriate working experience. So it's very important for you to have the working experience. Okay, so now we are going to proceed to the roles. Okay, so what is role? Roles are defined as the set of behaviors and job tasks they are expected to perform. So there are 3 roles. Okay, the first one is the decision making roles. The second one is information management roles, and the last one is the interpersonal roles. So let's go one by one for this each role. For decision making role is an effective administrative office manager is able to make effective decision regarding employees as well as the operation and the resources. On the other hand, the information management roles, the nature of administrative office manager's position makes him or her responsible for maintaining and using effectively managing information on organization-wide basis. And last one, the interpersonal role. Okay, you have learned about interpersonal communication during semester 2. So, interpersonal role is actually the effective administrative office manager will also deal professionally with her or his subordinates, not just subordinates, the peers and also the superiors, okay, to their down communication and to the top communication. Okay, now we are going to proceed. The next part is the skills of administrative office manager. Okay, so there are 3 skills of administrative office manager. The first one is conceptual skill, the second one is the human skill, and last one is the technical skill. So let's go one by one for this one. So skills are defined as those abilities individuals possess that enable them to carry out well their specific role. Okay, you have learned previously, you have 3 roles, and now we are going to proceed to the skills. So the first skill is conceptual skills. So what is conceptual skill? Skills that enable the administrative office manager to analyze a wide variety of situations, both technical and non-technical, uh, as a prelude to solving a problem. Okay, this is what we call the conceptual skill. And on the other hand, the human skills is enable the administrative office manager to work through and work with others, including the subordinate, peers, and superiors. And the last part is the technical skill. Skills that enable the administrative office manager to better understand the nature of various operations and tasks for which he or she has a responsibility. Okay, so these are the three skills, and also you have learned about the three roles in required for administrative office manager. Okay, so now we are going to learn in detail the skill of administrative office manager. Okay, that one is the definition in general. Okay, the conceptual skill. Again, this one is the ability to use existing knowledge in order to acquire additional knowledge. So one example of conceptual skill is the ability to view an entity as a whole and see how change in one parts will affect the other parts of that function. Okay, in other words, the function in the parts of many parts in the organization will affect each other and related to each other. So the conceptual skills are generally learned through experiences and educational processes. Some are intuitive. Okay, and then the skill of intuitive nature often enable the supervisor to make the correct decision simply because it seems to be the correct decision. Second part is the human skill. Again, the human skill is actually the ability to use knowledge and understanding people as they interact to one another. So this skill include the manager's ability to communicate, coach, to lead, to resolve conflict, to achieve consensus, and also to motivate the workers. So the application of such knowledge enable the administrative office manager to identify, comprehend, and solve the human problems. Okay, and an understanding of human skill will give the supervisor greater insight into working effectively with each subordinate in each situation. So in other words, you as a leader, you can know how to interact with your subordinate. Okay, and then the human skill can be learned either through on-the-job training or through courses designed to help individuals improve their supervisory skill. And the last part is the skill of administrative office manager is the technical skill. So the technical skill is actually work-related skill. Again, it is work-related skill that demonstrate the manager's ability to use the technology tools, the techniques, the procedure specific to a particular field. Okay, and this one is the ability to understand specific function and to use the tools and technique related to the functions or activity. Okay, and the nature of technical skills the supervisor needs determined by his or her areas of responsibility. And last part is the technical skills are typically acquired by means of the various training techniques. Okay. Now, the skill of administrative office managers. So the supervisors need conceptual, human, and technical skill, as well as skill in teaching, coaching, counseling, and communicating. Previously, we have learned about the three what we call the three skills, which that include the conceptual skill, the human skill, and technical skill. But again, you need to know we also have a skill in teaching, coaching, counseling, and communicating. So these skills are often developed through supervisory training experiences made available to the new supervisor or to supervisor who need the or desire the refresher training. Okay. And this is additional skill that you need to know is the teaching skill. So, supervisor responsible for teaching or training subordinates needs special teaching skill. So there are two important elements of teaching in which a supervisor should be skilled demonstrating and explaining. Okay, in other words, you need to show the hands-on and also the explanation part. Okay, so that's it for chapter 1 part 2. We are going to continue after this for chapter 1 part 3. Okay, thank you so much. And before we proceed to the next part, let's recap what we have learned. You need to know the administrative office, the definition of administrative office manager, and also the responsibility of administrative office manager. And you need to know the functions of management. So there are 4 functions: POLC, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And then you need to know each of these functions of management. It has their own job responsibilities as well as their activities the office manager can do. Okay, and the next part, you need to know the qualification of AOM as well as the professionalism and the educational background. And the next part that we have learned previously is the roles of AOM. There are 3 and also 3 skill that AOM will need to know. But you also have additional skill that you need to learn is the teaching skill. Okay, so that's it for now. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.